Hi, I'm Paul Huber, and I'm going to be walking you through the project overview. So generally, this system is it's an automation system for a pediatric doctor's office. It's going to be used by doctors, nurses, and patients. The main purpose of the software is going to be to reduce paperwork and increase the accessibility of patient records and data. So, as a quick overview of the system operation, first, a patient is going to come visit the doctor. They're going to be greeted by a staff nurse who is going to take down their information. And they're also going to take vitals such as weight, height, body temperature, etc. And they're going to enter all of that data into the system. After that, the patient is then going to be questioned by a nurse about health information, which is again going to be entered into the system. Once that happens, a patient is going to be examined. The doctor is going to do a physical exam on the patient. They're going to enter their findings into the system, and then if any medication needs to be prescribed, the prescription is going to be entered into the system, and then it's going to be automatically sent to the pharmacy that's listed in the patient records. The doctor will need to be able to see the patient history, including all of the past health issues, previously prescribed medications, history of immunizations, and things like that. After a doctor's visit, there needs to be a patient portal that will allow users to create an account, and then with that account, they will be able to view their summary of their visit, and they will also be able to message doctors or nurses with any health-related questions through an integrated messaging system. So just as a brief explanation of the requirements that we gain from that. So first, the system needs to have vitals recording. So it'll need to have fields such as weight, height, body temperature, blood pressure, etc. And the system will need to be able to store that. There needs to be patient history. So it must accept and store patient health information, immunization history, previously prescribed medications, and health issues. And of course, that needs to be able to be accessible by healthcare staff. There needs to be a doctor's section. So where the doctor is able to record physical exam findings, they're able to enter prescriptions, they're able to view the patient's medical history and edit it. And then, of course, any of the prescriptions that are entered into the system will automatically be sent to the pharmacy and the patient's records. Now, there also needs to be a patient portal where patients can create accounts. And then once logged in, they're able to view and update all of their information. They can view a summary of each visit, and they're also able to communicate with healthcare professionals. Now, again, yes, there needs to be a communication system. I've already gone over this, just an integrated messaging system where patients and healthcare staff can communicate. And lastly, there also needs to be a storage system for just patient information. It needs to be able to store that and be accessible easily. And I'll pass it on to the next person.
Hey guys, I'm Samir and I'm going to walk you through the GUI. So the first one we have here is login page for staff use, where the staff would put the username or email and password to login. The next is nurse view, welcome meet and greet. So this page will have new registration for the patient, and we could also check the existing user, and then we could continue. We also have a logout button on the top right of the page. Then we go to the nurse view for new registration. So when we register a new patient, we have to put a patient's name, gender, date of birth, contact address, height, weight, and then all the blood pressure, blood temperature, insurance number, pharmacy, and then we could save them, cancel, and we again have the same logout button on the top right of the page. Then we have nurse view, examination view, where the patient information page provides nurse with a comprehensive overview of the patient's medical history and current status. In the top right corner of the page, a logout button offers nurses a convenient means of ending the session and maintaining security and privacy protocol. And then we also have the whole history of the patient, which we could save and also edit if you want to. Then the next is the login page for the patients, where the patient would put his username or email and password provided to him, and then he could log in. The next is patient's portal view, where the patient would see his past visits, the date, the summary of doctor visits, and time of the visit. Then he could also have messages from the doctors, the nurses, and he could also send messages forward. The next we have patient view messages. So here the patient could write a message where he has his name and the date and time. Then we have patient view contact info, where the patient would provide his name, email, and phone number. And if you want, we could edit it. And then we have a top back button on the top right corner of the page. And then we go to the doctor view, where the doctor gets the patient's details like name, birth, date of birth, age, and the patient's record with patient's history and health issues, then immunization records and ongoing medications. And then you could write the recommendations, tests, and prescriptions, and you could submit them. And then you also have a send prescriptions button, which would send the prescription to the pharmacy. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
I'm Gavin. I'll be going over the use cases. And the first use case is recording patient vitals, where the nurse is the actor, and the nurse will log into the system and collect the patient's vitals. The data collected is the patient ID, weight, height, body temperature, and blood pressure if the patient is over 12. And stimulus is when a patient comes to visit a doctor, and the response is patient vitals recorded in the system when he or she will be escorted into the examination room where the doctor will examine him or her. The next use case is entering specific health concerns, and the nurse is the actor. The nurse should be able to see the patient's history, including previous health issues, previously prescribed medications, and history of immunization. And the nurse will ask patient-specific questions to update the information if it's needed. And the data is used is patient ID, known allergies, any health concerns, previous health issues, prescribed medications, and history of immunizations. And the next use case is physical examination, and a doctor is the actor. A doctor should be able to review patient history, including previous health issues, previously prescribed medications, and do a physical test and enter any findings into the system. And if any medication is needed, the prescription will be entered in the system and sent to the pharmacy. The data used is patient ID, examination findings, and prescription if needed. The next use case is receiving prescriptions. The pharmacy is the actor, and once the doctor finishes the examination, and if medication is needed, the pharmacy will receive a list of medications from the doctor, and the data is patient ID and a list of medications. And the next use case is viewing the visit summary, and the actor is the patient. Once the visit is done, the patient should be able to log into their account and check a summary of their visits, including vitals, health concerns discussed, examination findings, and any prescriptions. The next use case is sending specific health concerns. The patient is the actor, and if the patient has any further health concerns, they can log into their account and see any messages in the system. The next use case is replying or calling patients, and the nurses and doctors or actors. The doctor and nurses will be able to log into the system and see each patient's question, and if it's urgent, they can call the patient. If not, they can reply through the system. The next use case is accessing patient history, and this is used by the doctor and nurse. And the doctor and nurses can log into the system and put in the patient's ID and see the patient's history and record their visit and see the patient's information. The next use case is scheduling any appointments, and this is going to be used by the nurse. And the nurse should be able to log into the system, put in the patient's ID, and select an available time slot for an appointment. And the system confirms the appointment and notifies the doctor and the patient. The next use case is the patient login, and the actor is the patient. Whenever the patient wants to view or modify anything in their patient portal, they can log into their account by using their login ID. The next use case is updating self-information, and this is done by the patient. After the patient logs in, the patient can go to their profile and update any contact information, insurance details, and other relevant personal information. And the last use case is the staff login, which is done by the nurse and doctor. And any staff can put their unique ID into the page and to sign into the system. And there is the use case diagram.
Hey guys, so I'll be going to the class diagram. So this is the account that we with the use case diagram. So the classes we have here is nurse, doctor, patient, patient portal, visit, pharmacy, and database and system. So they all have their own unique attributes and methods to them. So the nurse has unique attributes like ID and name, and it has methods like login info, health info, and message forward. The doctor has its own unique attribute like ID, name, specializations, and its methods are review history, login, health examinations, prescribed medications, and message forward. Then patient has attributes like ID, full name, date of birth, contact info, health history, and its methods are login, visit summary, update contact info, and send message. The patient portal has its attributes like patient ID, access info, and its methods are create account, view all visits, access to info, and send messages. The visits attributes are visit ID, date. Its methods are store visit info. The pharmacy has attributes like prescription, pharmacy ID, name, and its methods are receive prescriptions and fill prescriptions. The database has attributes like data collection, and its methods are store patient info, store pharmacy info, and retrieve info. The system has attributes like database connections, logged in users, message queues, and security manager. And it has methods like store personal info, allow access, and facilitate messaging. So all of the classes are connected to the system, and the system will then store the data into the database. So that's about it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'll be taking over the explanation of the main module of a board. So our system has 4 main files: pediatric auto system, patient view, nurse view, and doctor view. In all of the view classes, all the main UIs are stored for each respective respective member. So a main class, which is the pediatric auto system, it has a function to call all the main UIs, and some of its primary functions are which can be accessed, which are public functions, which can be accessed by both the doctor and the nurses, which are access history and display the history UI. And it has a method to check if a patient exists in the system or not. It has a function for the nurses and the doctors to send messages to the patient, and it has a private function to read messages from the file. This basic file reading and writing for the comprehensive function of the messaging portal system. Next up, we have a patient view, which has the main patient UI. And moving on, we have the first private function for the patient, which is change information. A patient can change her information in the system. And the patient can also load its data for the patient has also the access to view its own data. So we have a load patient data function, which will use the patient ID to retrieve information. And we have load messages and read messages from a file for the patient to use the messaging portal system to communicate with the doctors and nurses. Next up, we have a nurse class. It has the main nurse view, and it has private nurse methods, which compromises save the patient information. The nurse is the main meet and greet for the pediatric office. So the nurse can take all the patient information and store them in a file, save the patient vitals into a file, and she can also the nurse can also load the patient data. And during the creation or the registration of a new user, a patient ID will be generated for each patient, which will be unique for each patient, using the name, date of birth, and the first and the last name and the date of birth. Moving on, we have a doctor view. So we have our main doctor UI, and then now we have a method to send the prescription to the pharmacy, and it will read the patient information file through the patient ID and send particular information to the pharmacy that is in the patient's file. The doctor also has function to load the patient data, and doctor can also save his their notes in a file called notes, which is from the patient ID, which can be accessed from the patient ID and general assurance. This is our main module of a code, and the whole backbone is the pediatric auto system, which is managing all the different UI and all the basic implementation. Next up, we have Ian, who will be explaining the conclusion of the project.
Hi everyone, this is Yunhong. So for this project, we successfully made Java FX programs for this automatic system. We mainly divided into 3 phases. For the first one, we brainstormed together that which kind of view we needed in this program, like nurse view, doctor view, and patient view, pharmacy view. And for the phase 2, we mainly identified the classes and use cases what we need, and also the method we need for the classes. And for the phase 3, we code together at a GitHub and also implement our code. During this process, there are some points make us work well. First one is communication. One of the most important key to our successful effective communication, we use collaboration tools such as Discord and Zoom to host regular meeting in which we discuss project updates or issue we encounter. The second one is division of labor, dividing the project phases into smaller chunks like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then assigning them based on individual strengths allow us to complete our project in the most efficient way possible. However, there are some points that make our work not working well. The first one is initial planning. We ended up being forced to modify our original plan for a number of reasons, leading to some ambiguity when it came to the coding of the project later on. The second one is time management. Even though we turned in our project on time, but mostly in hurry, so we started our communication always too late, which might be 3 days before due date. So we have some recommendation for future groups here. The first one is extensive planning. A majority of your time should be invested in the planning of the project, rather than the creation of the project. Ensure that everyone's potential flow is discovered. Second point is testing. Don't wait until the project is completed to perform your testing. And the third one, which is the most important one, is time management. Allocate your group a more than sufficient amount of time to complete each phase. Also, for the statistic we have in this project, we might find 3 to 5 defects in phase 1, 10 to 20 in phase 2, but more than 20 in phase 3 because we have to debug for phase 3, and the average number of lines of code produced per hour spent on the project might be 200 per line per hour. But however, if the function is too hard to brainstorm and to think about, then we might only have 20 per line during an hour. So thank you. That is our project.